Awesome. Well, hey, guys, welcome back. We are on episode 9. On episode 9, we recently finished off our Asking for a Friend series.
Yeah.
And we ended with a really cool panel of people up on stage, and we had these questions that we're going to get into soon, but I just wanted to give a teaser for the rest of this podcast episode. But, man, I'm just so excited because I'm drinking a delicious iced latte. I'm sorry that you guys don't have anything. I made my own homemade lavender syrup. Can you believe that?
I can believe that, actually.
Yeah.
If someone else, if Elijah said that, I would say no.
Yeah. No, I'm trying
a little
out
bit too much of a man.
some new.
Had to go with lavender. Out of all the options.
I was just saying.
Oh, no, he needs some milk.
he needs some milk. Yeah. No,
Well, on that note, then, what are you doing with your life recently that has been exciting? Would you mind sharing? How are you doing?
I am doing good. I do want to mention real quick before I talk about my life.
Yeah.
People thought that you rigged the questions.
They did.
Okay,
They
so
did.
I need to put this public disclaimer out there. We did not rig the questions in first service. What happened was
Stole it.
the questions were stolen. What happened was there were a bunch of these cards right here. There's Asking for Friends, which you guys...
You have a ton more.
Which you have a ton more, right? That you guys asked your questions, and we wanted to bring some of those in. And our hope was going to be that while we were answering 3 or 4 of those, you guys would flood in the questions. We did not basically think through how long it would take to answer those first few questions. And so first service got the bulk of those preloaded questions.
Yes, which were asked by
you. So they were
guys.
still your questions.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't and since, especially when it's like a panel of people which are not used to maybe like sitting up on stage and having to think on the spot like that without being prepared. People, to get them there, I had to show them the questions in advance. And so, just like this is for all you haters out there. You know
people were coming for me. They're like, "Yo, so you're not gonna pick my question?" I was like,
what was the point? I'm leaving this church.
Oh my God! Then
no,
leave.
nobody
Just
said
kidding.
that.
Don't leave.
So,
we need you.
So I mean, after when you were asking me how I was doing, I basically went home and wept that I was a failure as a pastor. Because of
Man, don't feel that way.
But that's every Sunday, right?
Most Sundays I do feel that way.
You try your best.
And so
You try your best, but can't succeed. I think that's how it goes.
Is that it? If you're going to sing the song, you might want to know the words.
Yeah, almost
remix it a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't we?
Yeah.
That's copyright infringement.
Good.
Katy Perry's getting sued off of that right now.
Wow.
No, is it Katy Perry or
Again?
it's
Before you talk about facts,
it's
maybe
Taylor
you should-
Swift. Oh, yo, she was getting sued by Lecrae and them.
Who? Flame sued her and
Flame
won
and
a few
Lecrae.
years ago.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You guys are
So
more
there
in
you
the
go. So
culture
I
than
do know
am.
my facts. You know what I'm
Whatever,
saying?
dude,
Come
whatever.
on,
All right,
dog.
Dan. How you doing, Dan? You doing good, Dan? Make any lavender syrup
I'm doing
lately?
great. How buttercup syrup.
Buttercup.
Oh, wow.
Hey.
Wow. How can you explain us the process?
Joelle would get it, but I don't know if you would.
But somebody I probably couldn't, but somebody I'm sure
Well, you
was
take the
watching.
essence of the buttercup with your essence grinder.
The essence of
And then you just squeeze a few drops.
The essence grinder?
Yeah.
That's what they call it?
Just Google
That's the
it,
technical term? Okay.
Yeah.
Here, if I
We'll
have
drop
a-
the
I have a
link.
phone
We'll
right
drop
now.
the link.
Actually,
our Wi-Fi isn't working right now.
Because I can't understand, obviously.
Oh, what a guy. You're
So
such
I'm wondering if Google...
Such an honest. You're such
It's a
an
little
honest guy.
metaphysical, this drink.
It is? Okay, let's see. Google essence grinder. There's no such thing.
You shouldn't Google things that you don't know what's going to pop up.
Internet can be
You
interesting.
never know what that phrase might mean.
They'll show you an essence grinder. And that's episode 9.
We're derailing here. Let's get back.
Listen, this is great. The people love this. The people love it when we just
Oh, my
talk about
goodness.
real things, and we appreciate our viewers that are so consistent.
Okay.
When we
When we are
might not.
When we're consistent.
Consistently failing.
Awesome. So I'm glad that y'all are doing well. Do we do we want to talk about any other things before we jump into the questions? Because I've got some spicy questions here that I've already looked through. Some that are going to require some brain cells. Some that are going to require just some Bible, some personal thought. And man, we just hope that everyone out there is just open. I'm like so right now, like making this sound like so much more
setting
serious.
the bar so high.
Yeah. So some of the things that we're going to talk about, if you are 18 and I'm kidding. All right, let's jump into it. Let me take a sip of my homemade lavender.
Lavender.
Voice gets an octave higher after the lavender.
Wow. Wow.
Somebody did not like that and they unsubscribed.
This is a buck wild podcast today. I can tell. We're gonna be washing people's feet after this.
We really are, though.
And,
We really are, though.
do communion and
We really
all
are.
that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Some people need that.
Some
Great.
people need.
All right, so let's just
With
jump
lavender.
right into it. I'm gonna.
Okay. Because we didn't know what they were anyway.
Right. Like, you guys have never seen these questions before. All right, so the first one, is the Roman Catholic system truly Christian? Or was Peter really the first pope?
Oh, that's a good question. That is a good question.
Now, you guys are both smart.
Thank
So
you.
do you want to rock,
wanna
paper?
listen.
Do you want
Hey, come on. Give yourself
to
credit,
rock,
Elijah.
paper, scissor for it, or would you like me to moderate? Who starts off?
Why don't you give that one a day?
Let's start off with Dan.
He'll let me drop the ball, and then he'll come in all
Yeah,
smart.
yeah.
Actually,
So I'll ask it one more time. Is the Roman Catholic system truly Christian?
With the Jeopardy.
Yeah.
we should put the Jeopardy.
I'm going to write in my answer.
What is
What is?
great? Is the Roman Catholic system truly Christian? Was
Yeah.
Peter really the first pope?
Yeah, whether Peter's the first pope, I think I'll defer that one for sure. I don't even know what Catholics would say about that. I assume they would say he is, and that there's a unbroken line of succession or something like that. As Protestants, I don't think we really hold to these views of Pope, so it may not mean anything from our sense. But whether Roman Catholics, I guess, are Christians might be the main question. And I would say yes. I would say that we would believe in that ecumenical sense that, Protestants, Catholics, if they have professing faith in Jesus Christ as the Son of God, the atoning sacrifice for sins, then of course they're Christians. There's some major differences like the veneration of Mary and some of those things where we obviously, separate. I'm sure Elijah could talk more about that, but I would say, yeah, I've met Roman Catholics. He's brooding. I've met Roman Catholics who are on fire for Jesus, whose faith challenges me and whose perspectives challenge me. And I even have a couple podcasts that I enjoy listening to that are from a Catholic perspective, and it's just some of it's just so unique to me who grew up, only in Protestant circles that I enjoy hearing those perspectives. But I've also had friends in college who Catholicism was just a cultural thing for them. Like I've had Jewish friends where they're not necessarily practicing their faith. It was just a cultural thing. So
I want to ask a question tied to that, and then I want to ask Elijah the question that we just asked. But this was a question that we asked this past Sunday in our panel, and it was more geared towards children, whoever asked it. But I want to ask you specifically, what are some of the benefits that you've seen researching or knowing about other religions while being a Christian?
Yeah. I mean, I think we all come to different points in our life where we examine our faith a little deeper and we ask, or at least I hope we do, why do I actually believe this? Or what do I really think about these concepts? Even if you're only in Christian circles, Christians disagree about even things as simple as Jesus' sacrifice and what all did that do spiritually. And
Sure.
if you never address other thoughts and stuff, it can really throw you for a loop. So for me personally, it's been nice to challenge me to go deeper in the things that I've just presumed are true, that I've never thought about, and to feel more weight to my faith and my theology after examining whether it's atheists and agnostics and stuff around science or whether it's other Christian denominations. To be honest, I haven't really delved into a lot of what like Buddhists or Hindus believe because it's so different. I don't think I've really felt like, oh, could I potentially agree with some of their stuff?
Awesome. So then, Elijah, is the Roman Catholic system truly Christian? Was Peter really the first pope?
Yeah, I think I would agree with everything Dan said.
You pass the test. You can stay. You can stay in the
One
room.
more
He said, hey, listen.
Security, he's
No.
good. He's good. Thank you.
Now let's really dig into a real question. Essence of no, I agree. I agree with everything Dan said. I when it comes to Peter, like, so the Catholic Church believes that to be true, and they believe that on one of the reasons why is that the statement that Jesus makes, he says, when he says, Jesus says, who do man say that I am? And, some of the disciples are like, yeah, you're Moses or you're Elijah, come back to life or whatever. And all these, or Elijah, come back. And he says, who do you say I am? And Peter speaks up and says, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And then Jesus says, and this is the hotly contested line here, flesh and blood have not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven. Your name is now Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. So basically, the Catholic Church believes that, like, they're saying, like, we believe Peter, you now have become the chief apostle amongst, what I'm saying, or the way I would say is, first among equals almost thing, right? Like, you're the chief apostle there, and like upon this rock. Whereas Protestants, we would say, well, no, wait a second. Jesus talking about upon the proclamation that Jesus Christ is the Son of the living God, and the church will be built on this. No, Peter's the rock in which the church was like. So like, there's that, and then they would say, and then if you look throughout the New Testament, Peter's the guy who kind of is the person who's out in front. He's the one who preaches on the day of Pentecost. Like, what I'm saying? It continues his authority, even though when you get to Acts 15, James comes in and he's kind of the guy who's just like, oh, wait a second. Like, like this is the way that we should do things. They would still say like, yes, because Peter is the first among equals. And then they would say that Peter established the Roman, because we don't really know who established the church in Rome. It wasn't Paul, but... So like they would say those things. I disagree. I think that the church, also when we think about the church and how it was operating, the word Catholic means universal. So it meant just like everyone who is in this like collegial body of like believers. And so I think what's happening there, like, as the church became established, they would say, well, like, this is the Catholic Church. And so, yeah, Catholics would disagree with me. I don't have a problem with that. I disagree with them, and a lot of Protestants and great thinkers also disagree with them. And there's a lot of Catholic and great thinkers who agree. I think it really doesn't matter. I think the biggest thing is what you said, like, what we believe, who Jesus is and stuff like that. The one thing I really want to say, and I'll move really quick so we can get through this next question, is I do think that we, in our movement away from like a rejection of some of the maybe more traditional Catholic beliefs, like the veneration of Mary and stuff like that, we've also lost theology or a way of thinking about like people like Mary in the scriptures, and we've lowered her in an essence, not to like prop her up in the way that like maybe Protestants. I think there's also like a misunderstanding of what Mary is in the Catholic Church as well. So so I mean there's just a whole lot there. We could probably spend an hour just talking about that, but yeah. It's a good question.
Great. Next question. Do you believe in speaking in tongues?
Ooh.
I want to add to that question.
Okay.
Do you believe in the gift of speaking in tongues? I believe that some people see it as a gift. Some others might see it differently. Some see it as an Old Testament thing, like, hey, this happened way before. It doesn't happen now. But do want to focus mainly on that question. Do you believe in speaking in tongues?
Yeah, I think so. I believe in speaking in tongues personally. I believe that it is a gift that is for today. I speak in tongues. I practice that prayer language in my own time at home or when I'm alone. I think that for whatever reason it gets elevated above other gifts. I think it's one of many gifts. I don't think you have to speak in tongues in order to be filled with the Spirit, which some denominations would say, like, that is the evidence of speaking in tongues. I would say otherwise. I think being a believer is the evidence that you are filled with the Spirit. So yeah, I do believe in speaking in tongues. I think when we talk about speaking in tongues in a public space, like in the church, there's an order by which we have to do things. And so because like they're different people, and this was kind of like, I think, Paul's idea around this conversation, there's different people that are in the room that may not understand, unbelievers, whatever, that are in the room. And so I think like when done in an orderly way, I think things are beautiful. And somewhere along the line, I do think in more charismatic Pentecostal circles, like the gifts, it's some, not all, sometimes take preeminence over the moment, and like they become the main thing. And so I could see how this conversation for some of you, which are like, I don't speak in tongues and because like that's the caricature. But I would say like Paul talks about like desiring these type of gifts, especially prophecy. So like, yeah, I would lean into that. And not everyone's going to speak in tongues,
Yeah, no,
So.
I like how you teed it up, as in like it's one of many spiritual gifts. Because I have been in similar circles where that more charismatic movement where it gets elevated above others, and some go as far as saying you're not filled with the Holy Spirit until you speak in tongues. So even I remember growing up in that, like just scared to even go up for prayer because I'm like, as a young man, not like what's gonna happen to me? Am I gonna black out? Am I gonna start like
get possessed by the Spirit?
Am I gonna
or
possessed? Like you start feeling these negative, and they start praying over you. Come on, speak it, and then you feel less than.
Sure.
So there's definitely many people out there that either have gone through that or have just been in some of that. So I like that you teed it up by one of the many gifts, because I agree with that. I think it's one of the many gifts. And it's not the only one that shows that you're filled with the Spirit.
Yeah, and I think the three of us hold in common that we've all been in those either charismatic or Pentecostal circles at some point growing up. So we do have personal experience with like the legitimacy of it being an operational gift, but also seeing like just some weird stuff around it where it does become a very dogmatic thing in some circles that can do more harm than the good it's intended.
Yeah.
I also think like there's two types of tongues also that I feel like in this conversation are never communicated, right? So there's a type of tongues where like are like a heavenly language that we like don't understand. It's not a human language. I think it's talked about in the scriptures. And the other one is where it's like someone else, a human language, but it's a different language. And so like, I just remember my dad telling me a story that he went to like a conference one time and he was praying next to someone and they were praying in like fluent, I think it was like Shona or something, like one of the languages my dad knows. And then afterwards, like he was just like, man, that was a powerful prayer. He went to go pray, talk to that guy in Shona. And the guy was like, what? You know what I'm saying? He's like, hey man, have you been to Africa? Like your Shona is really good. He's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Like I was praying in English, right? And so like, but dad literally understood everything that guy was saying. And so like, and there's so many testimonies that of people doing that, whether on a mission field, preaching a message in like whatever their native language, and then those people receiving it. So like, also, like, I feel like we have to be careful when we try to just say like, hey, tongues is one thing, it's this or that, and like we see like a beautiful picture of some other different stuff. So yeah.
It's great. Any more? Anything else? Nope. All right. Let's keep moving. How did the giants in the Old Testament come to be, and why did they die out?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So were there giants?
No,
So
that's all you. I just answered the tongues question.
Where were there giants?
Let us
in the
know.
Old Testament? People want to know.
Tell us about this.
How'd they come to be?
Yeah, no. I'll answer by saying I don't know. Like I could point you to some scripture in Genesis, but all that does is bring you back to your original question. So the Bible does say that there were Nephilim giants. There's references, obviously, like Goliath, who David fought, is a descendant of the Nephilim. Where they come from exactly, Scripture has a comment here or there about, the sons of God seeing that the daughters of mankind were beautiful and intermingling, but what exactly that means, you can speculate, but I wouldn't claim to have like a strong opinion one way or the other. But it is one of those things where this feels like a fairy tale. It feels far-fetched. And I think that, to me, is sometimes even the bigger question. Like, what do we do with something like Noah's flood or the Nephilim or, Samson killing 1,000 men with the jawbone of a donkey? Like, things that just seem like beyond,
right?
They almost seem like pagan stories of like, Achilles and Hercules and stuff like that. So to me, that's kind of like the interesting thing of like that mystery where I don't know what to do with that, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. This is what I'll say. When it comes to stuff like that, I think that like what is interesting about the scriptures, right, is that these pictures are actually more are pop out a lot more than we think they do. What's unfortunate is I think the church has done a really poor job of teaching about these things, right? And this is where that question really comes from, is like, okay, well, it does show up, right? Like, so, and it is in the 66 books that we have called canonized. It wasn't blacked out or whatever, they didn't remove it. So like now we have to do the hard work of engaging with the text, right? And I'm not saying that like some of these things aren't mystery. I totally agree with you. I do think though, like there are answers to this, right? And so you mentioned, Michael Heiser. Michael Heiser is a Old Testament scholar. I mean, his work has been peer reviewed, I think, by over. So like one of the things when I'm trying to do like research or on something or like write a paper or even doing any type of like work, for sermon or teaching here at the church, I make sure the stuff that I'm reading is peer reviewed, because that means that like it's not on a popular level. That means like no any Joe Schmo can write a book and then publish it today, and it's like, oh, that's great, right? But like we don't know, like have other people which are also researching the same thing, which are would be considered scholars on that level or informed on that level, able to look at your work and say like, yes, there's credence to that. Michael Heiser's had, I think, over like 1,500 peer reviews on like just one of his books, which is called The Unseen Realm, in which he talks about this. So, so I just want to kind of give some like that's The Unseen Realm is a great resource if you want to kind of look into this space. But what I would say about the giants is what we have to understand is that Genesis is a part of what is called mytho-history, right? And so before you freak out and be like, oh my pastor is a heretic and like like he just said it's a myth.
Let him know.
You know what I'm saying? So like what mytho-history is it's a way in which people in ancient times tried to basically used to understand the world. They told stories, right? In it. It doesn't mean that it's not true. It's just a way in which they interpret it. Just the way we use science today, certain sciences to interpret, like, astrophysics or whatever, to interpret what's happening in space and stuff like that. So think about it in that way, right? And so what you actually see in the story of, Adam and Eve, and then you see in the story of, let's say, for example, the Tower of Babel, and then also in the story of, the giants, the Nephilim coming down, sleeping with the human daughters or whatever, and then they having these babies who become giants. What you actually see is that there is an archetype that's starting to form. And what archetype means? It means that there is this repeated pattern, right, of how sin works. And in all of these passages, I wanted to put it up. If you go to Genesis 3 real quick, it says, I'm going to try and do this as fast as possible. It says, where is it? Oh, it says, the woman said to the serpent, now the serpent was more cunning than any animal in the field, which the Lord had made. And he said to the woman, has God really said, you shall not eat of the tree of the garden? The woman said to the serpent, for the fruit of the tree of the garden you may not eat, but from the fruit of the tree which is in the middle of the garden, God has said, you shall not eat from it or touch it, or you will die. The serpent said to the woman, you certainly will not die. For God knows that on the day that you eat of it, your eyes will be open and you will become like God and know good and evil. When the woman, here's the key part. When the woman saw the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eyes, and that the tree was desirable to make one wise, she took. Now, if you go to Genesis 6, it says, now it came about when mankind had met 6 verse 1, began to multiply on the face of the land, and the daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of mankind were beautiful, and they took wives. So, I don't know if you've seen that pattern, right? What happened in Genesis 3? Eve saw the fruit. It was good. She took.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is the exact same picture that we see in Genesis 6. The writers are trying to show us there's a pattern in which sin works, right? Which distorts the way that we engage with God when we start creating rules in our own order. Yeah. So there's a part of that we have to see. And everyone, if you were in the first century and you were hanging around Jesus when they said like, how did sin happen? We always point back to Genesis 3. But they point back to Genesis 3, Genesis 6, the Tower of Babel, because they see all of these themes that are happening, right? These types that are happening. And so like that's why I'm saying like it's really important when we read scripture or we get in these spaces, we actually do ask these questions, because like we don't just chuck them off and say like, well, these don't matter, because like they do matter, right? Like, and in ancient times, they would have understood clearly what's happening in the text. And as Jesus is saying certain things, they would have understood. So it's up to us to really do the hard work of digging into the scriptures. And it gives us a fuller picture of like, oh, wow, over and over again. And I can jump you all the way even to like David and Bathsheba. Literally, it's like they copy and pasted from Genesis 3, Genesis 6.
Just different characters.
Different characters. David was looking down. What is that? He saw that Bathsheba was naked and he took her and he sinned. And over again throughout scripture, you see this picture. And then you get to Jesus, right? I think it's in Matthew 5. And what is Satan trying to do to Jesus? Who is who's the second Adam?
Trying to sell him something.
Here's the bread. Yeah. See it, take it. And what does Jesus do? He passes the test that everyone throughout Genesis. And if you're paying attention to the rhythm of scripture,
so good.
You know what I'm saying? You would be able to say, wow. So this is why they're saying like Jesus was just like every other or like any other lived just like we did, but he did not sin like we did, because he had the same opportunities that all of these jokers all throughout scripture did, but he doesn't. So again, this is where these stories kind of connect.
All of them jokers.
So,
Jokers. Those jokers. Careful. You said this once before. You become what you behold.
Yeah.
So careful what you're looking at. Careful what you're beholding.
Hey,
There's a word there.
there's a word. There's a
See,
word.
because
Come on now. Can we have a second? Can we have a second?
Let's
Come on
have a
now.
second.
Hey, yeah. I love it. I love it.
Yes. All right. Next question. How? I feel like this is a great question. It could mean many things, but how to forgive people who persecuted you for hundreds of years? How do you forgive people who persecuted you for hundreds of years?
I think I'm gonna like take the easy, like high level view answer. Like all forgiveness is beyond our like internal capacity. That'd be my first take. So even if it was just your parent hurt you in some deep way, you know, you were abused or you didn't feel loved or valued or accepted, like forgiveness, like that's a grace that God allows us to do. Just in my opinion, just like having faith or walking in obedience to Christ. And so when we want to forgive and we don't feel that internal capacity, like to me, that's Christ inviting you, like come and learn from me, come abide with me and come learn how to forgive. Because Jesus says, if you don't forgive your brother from the heart, then your Father will not forgive you. Like how many times do I struggle to forgive the people I love the most, like my wife, like from the heart, like I forgive you, but part of me is still kind of bitter. And in a month, I'm going to remind you in an argument. You know? So to me, like, it's just an acknowledging like, God, this hurts so deep. I can't resolve it. Will you please come and give me grace?
I get it, but that's a tough one, man. That's a tough one because there's people that generations have gone through so much persecution, so much hurt, deaths. I mean, discrimination. I mean, you name it. And like, what's helped me, and I'm kind of gonna lock in with you because, so the times that I found it difficult to forgive somebody, and again, this is tough because, I haven't gone through a lot of the things that other people have gone through. I have my own life, my own things. But when I look back at Jesus, how he forgave us and gave his life for us, and I know that's like it feels like a cop-out. It feels like the Christian answer. But it is the answer that has helped me in so many seasons, so many times, that, man, like, Jesus gave me grace and died on the cross for my sins when he could have just said delete, Control Alt Delete on the whole. Could have rebooted.
You have the little green letters.
Yeah. Could have restarted the Matrix.
Yeah, man.
And he didn't. He
did
didn't.
not.
He gave us the ability to continue living and all that stuff. That's when I find it easier to at least get to a place where I'm like, okay, I think I can go through with forgiving somebody.
That's good, man. Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with you. And obviously, like, this conversation, this question is talking racially, and I mean, I think like we all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And that's the hard part, I think, at times, to realize that we are just as culpable as anybody else. But like, and God gives us grace, and we have to live in that space. And grace is like we don't deserve the grace that God has given us, right? And so, yeah, man, we get to live in the space of grace.
How would you? So obviously, like, our church is kind of unique to a lot of churches, that we do have a genuinely like multi-ethnic, multicultural community. So how would you? Like, forgiveness, yes, that's like a big ultimate like command that Jesus has, but just being able to relate and love and interact, like, do you have any like practical thoughts on how do we move forward when there are things like that?
Yeah, I think it's, you know what it is, man? I think, at least for me, and again, I want to speak humbly in these situations because, I don't want to act like I have the answers. I just think like it has to be, you have to take a posture of humility. Right? Like, I just keep on going back to Philippians, I think it's 5, right? Where the Christ hymn is. Is it 5? Is it 4 or 5? I can't remember. It might be 2, actually. It's 2, 5.
It's one of the 4 chapters.
Yeah. It's Philippians
of the-
2.
Philippians 2 is his humility
Yeah.
thing.
So in the Christ hymn, actually let's read that real quick. I mean, this is a podcast about the Bible, so we probably should bring it up every once in a while. Do you have it, Joel?
Philippians
Chapter 2.
Yeah.
It starts to have this same attitude.
Man, my NSB translation on this phone is like all over the place. All right, here it is. Philippians 2:5. And it says, have this attitude in yourself, which was also in Christ Jesus, who, as he already existed in the form of God, did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a bondservant, and being born in the likeness of men, and being found in appearance as a man, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, and death on the cross. For this reason, also God highly exalted him and bestowed on him the name which is above every name, so that at the name of Jesus every knee will bow, of those who are in heaven and on the earth and underneath the earth. So I think about Jesus's posture of humility, that not only does Jesus, like that word where it says he humbled himself and he took on the form of humanity. That word actually is translated it means, it comes from the word where we get to condescend. He condescended down. He came down and he restricted himself, right, into like human form, and not just any human form. He took on the form of a servant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he takes the lowest rung on the human scale. Like, that's the posture of humility that God takes. And then not only does he do that, but he dies the worst possible death possible, which is on the cross. Now, again, for us, we've made the cross. We have cross tattoos, we have cross necklaces. But imagine if you were a 5-star Michelin restaurant, right? And on your signature dish, right, of filet mignon, you know what I'm saying? Some lobster, you know. What's that super like nice champagne or whatever? It's something number 1 or something. I forget. Like, it's like, you know,
I don't know.
That really, oh, come on,
I'm
man.
a Christian. I don't
We
drink.
don't have
I
that
thought
lead
you were
pastor
the
money.
I thought you were the bougie one over here. You know, say you got lavender syrup
I
that
am,
you,
but see,
you hand pressed.
But see, listen, my bank account doesn't agree with my taste.
That's why I'm hand pressing my own lavender.
You know,
But I'm just saying, okay, so like
Yeah.
imagine that, and then imagine a toilet, a public toilet,
I can
right?
imagine.
Which is just, we can all imagine, you know what I'm saying? Which is just a mess, and you stick the food in that toilet.
Yeah.
Like, this is what the cross, like, none of us would wear that.
No.
None of us would be like, come to this restaurant. Jesus comes and that's not even a great example. That is the defilement. Not only from the Jewish text, which said, cursed is he who hangs from a tree, but from like the Roman first century context of like what that meant. And Jesus condescends to that place. And while he's doing this, the forgiveness of sins are happening. So who am I, right, to sit here and hold on and say somehow like I cannot forgive, as if the one who I follow has not done it for me, right? And I think that's the posture that we have to take. We have to take a posture of humility, deep humility, and it doesn't mean that we don't try to work for change or, you know, say like, hey, not call out sin, but it does mean that like I need to be really, really humble in this conversation because I was doled out an immense amount of grace. So that's where I come in.
Yeah. So we've got two questions left. This one, I'm gonna see if we can speed. If we can.
So I think this is the fun question.
This is the
so
fun
maybe we
question.
should do that one last.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna give y'all the hard one.
Wish
last.
I knew what y'all were looking
All
at.
right, so let's talk about this. Is an issue that is big in the church, and this person would love to know our stance, really. But abortion is such an issue. What does Overflow share as a belief? Please address these women who have chosen to get an abortion in the past legally.
So maybe I'll just take on this one, and then because we did a whole sermon on abortion July 4th, and in our Family Matters series. So if you want to go back and take a look on listen to that, I address it.
Yeah, I'll leave a link down at the description where you can find that.
Thank you.
That sermon.
Yeah, so we address it there. But so where we stand is we believe that life is sacred from the womb to the tomb. And then we also, for those which have had an abortion, we walk beside those people. We love those people. We think that they are image bearers of God, and we know, that it was one of the hardest decisions that anyone would have to make. And so we don't take lightly that which is there. And so our job as the church is to walk with people in this restorative space as they choose to follow Jesus and love Jesus and submit everything back to Jesus. So that's the way that we would handle that conversation.
Yeah, I just want to say that you're not less than. Yeah. You're still made whole in the image of Christ. And you're loved, There's so many women out there that have gone through this and probably have so much even fear stepping in a church because of the stigmatism and the judgment that can quickly come with that. But,
yeah, well, I think that's good.
All right. And the last question.
I love this because I don't even know where Dan stands on this.
Yeah,
so I'm so interested.
I don't know where I stand.
We're gonna
Watch
this is the one we're gonna discuss.
Listen, I'll start. I'll answer first.
All right, but you gotta ask a question.
I do.
Because I don't think I know where you stand on this.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
This is where I stand, and maybe after this podcast, might not see me ever again
anymore. Yeah.
Or I might coming back telling you, hey, I now have a master's in religion and biblical studies.
This one answer got
and
you,
what the Lord hath said unto me.
Degree.
I love your smart man voice. and then I don't know if you ever noticed your posture goes up.
It does. Man. There's something that
I am delivered.
It's something that it's just like whoa.
That's it. The brain cells
and
are expanding.
On the article that I've written, all right, so here it is. It's kind of a 3-part. They wrote it in 1, 2, 3 parts, but it all kind of goes together. Yeah. Do you believe in the rapture?
Ooh.
Will Christians be on earth through the tribulation? 2, how do we know what parts of the Bible to take literary? Wait, sorry.
Literally?
I cannot speak today.
No, that's literally. A hard one. That is a hard one, sir.
Yes.
Don't even apologize. You know who needs to apologize? The English language. Okay.
That is not my first language. So, hey, I learned a new word yesterday. Sorry, super ADD moment. I'm constantly learning. So if you don't know, I was born in Puerto Rico, and my main language.
And tell them how old were you when you taught yourself how to speak English?
Yeah. So I was 10 years old. So to some, out there, they might think, oh wow, that's awesome. But anyways, there's some people that start learning and they have an accent. So I was very when I was learning, I was I don't want to have an accent. I want to be able to switch on and off. So anyways, at 10 years old, I started learning English.
Impressive.
So I am, I've lived in the States now most of my life, but learned a new word. Hopefully I say it right, because I joked with this person that it reminded me of another word. So hopefully I don't say this word. I'm trying.
I'm so nervous.
I love the moment.
I'm probably gonna butcher it, but
don't
you
wanna
guys
delete
no, no,
all
no.
of this.
So
Just be confident.
It's a
Just
word.
throw it out
I'll
there.
give you guys then a tee up. It's a word that means like your property.
Okay.
So, dominance? No, not dominus.
Huh? Like a Latin word?
No. It's an English word.
English word?
And because we were talking about,
Domain?
it's so it sounds very similar to that.
Okay.
If you know it, drop it in the comments. Anyways,
You out Englished me on that.
I
one.
don't even. I don't even care about this rapture question anymore. I want to know.
what it
sorry,
actually
yes,
means.
we're gonna
Okay.
I'm gonna look
Dominion.
it up. No.
I heard Dominus on The Chosen.
Dominus. Wait,
Is
Dominus? Dominus?
Like one of the Roman soldiers was calling the other one Dominus or something like that.
Let's see.
Was that his name though?
It was like his title.
Oh,
Okay.
Dominus.
That's what made me think Latin, but
Oh, we're looking this up.
Oh, my
Bear with
brain
us.
is-
Bear with us, please.
I don't even
I'd
know
say
what you're
this
saying right now.
podcast, I'd say this podcast. Why? What is wrong? I need to stop reading things.
It's coming. It's coming.
I hope it's worth it. No.
Oh my gosh, I know.
I'm gonna ask Siri, what is Joel trying to say?
So as he's looking that up, I would like to say that this
sorry.
person obviously believes a certain type of way.
Okay.
Because
You think so?
in the question, yeah, because like in the question
Okay.
it says, what was the
I
second?
haven't even finished. So
Okay.
sorry. Yeah, forget about the word. This is a great question. Do you believe in the rapture? Will Christians be on earth through the tribulation? How do we know what parts of the Bible to take literally? And then what about dinosaurs, cavemen, and erosion and 7 literal days? ? Big Bang ? All right, so this is where I stand.
Okay, so let me say this. Let's take out that because this last part has nothing to do with the other two questions.
Hey, listen, I believe there was dinosaurs and cavemen.
I mean, we can talk about that, but I'm just saying,
But
like, it has nothing to do with the other two questions. Yeah,
Well, I stand where I believe there was dinosaurs. Anyways,
I do too.
I believe in dinosaurs.
I believe in
and
dinosaurs.
Overflow Church believes
so
in dinosaurs.
I heard this in a podcast once, and it'll make you think. And they were talking about the T-Rex dinosaur, and they were saying that archaeologists and people that dig up things recently, probably in the past, I don't know, few years, 10 years, I don't know, but they discovered remains of what they believed was a dinosaur, and in those remains somehow there was what seemed to be a feather-like part in this dinosaur or this thing's bones. So they now believe that there was fire-breathing dragons, and that what a T-Rex actually was, that there was never really T-Rex. What the bones of T-Rex that they found out was actually a dragon that flew, because the arms. So they talked about when a bird dies. So think of a bird. I know. Think of a bird. So when they talked about like when you find remains of the bird,
Yeah.
or when they break down. Listen, hang with me.
Being serious, Elijah.
Yeah.
Come on.
listening.
I know.
You're just throwing me right
when
now.
they do the research on the decomposing of a bird's body, usually the feathers are the quickest to be like deteriorated, eroded, whatever. So in this one, they found enough remains that they were like, oh, this is not a T-Rex. This could have been a flying dragon. So T-Rex might have been a dragon at some point, and we've all maybe gotten wrong all along. But anyways, let's go back to the question.
I just want to say, you have ruined my son Justice's life.
I won't tell him.
Because, like,
I
let
won't
me
tell
tell
him.
you something.
He loves T-Rex.
Like,
I know.
oh my
I know. That's his
gosh.
buddies. I will not
he
tell
knows
him.
all of the dinosaurs, like their scientific names.
Yeah.
wow.
Well,
Like, yeah, that's his thing.
so
Yeah,
all right, so
offline, we got.
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
me and you need to do a little dinosaur podcast.
Yes, yeah. and bring
Justice
Justice.
Bring
on.
Justice.
And
Justice would be like, no.
Yeah, we'll just get his reaction. Justice, so we've brought you here to let you know that there was actually no T-Rex.
There was dragons.
All right, so I'm gonna do a
He'd be like,
speed round.
cool.
I'm gonna do a speed round so that we go ahead and wrap this up. But I do believe that I do believe in the rapture, and I do believe that when the trumpet sound, when the heavens open, I do believe that there will be a group of people that will stay on Earth, and that's when Armageddon will happen. And then in a few years, I'm not gonna say numbers now because then y'all are gonna be like, prove it. But I believe that in a certain number of years, after we've been in heaven with Jesus, the heavens will open
7.
again. Yeah, that's where I was
You
headed.
got
But I believe that after 7 years of us being in the glory with Jesus celebrating, that the heavens will open, and that's when the big Armageddon war will happen. And then Earth will be the new heaven. God will completely remake it, and that's when the Antichrist. So that's why I'm saying I do believe that there will be a rapture. I do believe that there will be people on Earth. I think those people will probably quickly be like, "Oh no, I'm a Christian. Jesus, I'm now a Christian." But I think it'll be. Y'all seen the new Netflix show, The Last of Us?
I have not.
No. Is
Okay.
that based on the tribulation? And
No.
the rapture? Oh.
So it's like another one of those zombie apocalyptic shows, but that's what I think it will be like. I feel like at some point there'll be a ruling army that will be part of the Antichrist and
But
say
like half dead and half
The
alive.
Walking Dead.
Or
I don't know about that, but I just know that like they're all surviving. They're like running away, and if they get caught, anyways.
down.
And then how do we know what parts of Bible to take literally? You've done a great job with this. Dan, you've done a great job with this as well in your preachings, explaining that there are parts in the Bible that are meant to be poetic, that are meant to not be taken literally, but that are meant to be read as like, for example, Proverbs. Like those are great wisdom literature.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there are parts of the Bible that are meant to be taken literally. I think there's some that are, and some that you're just receive and just learn from, and
Some are just
man,
historical.
that was great. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's move on to
Dan.
Dan.
Yeah.
all right. So, do I believe in the rapture? I would say no. And what was the second part of like our 3-part question?
So, do you believe in the rapture?
Tribulation. Okay.
And will Christians be on earth through the tribulation?
This is why I was saying that this person told where they stand, because they
You think that second part?
yeah the
That
second
second
one
part told them like,
yeah.
okay, they believe in the tribulation.
yeah.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
Yeah.
And if you believe in the tribulation, then you believe in the rapture.
Yeah.
Right. No, I mean, my general take on like the limited amount of study I've done on this is that the rapture and a lot of those thoughts are relatively new in Christian thought, and that traditionally the church has had just a different view of like the 1,000-year reign of Christ and things like that. So I would say no. I don't think there's going to be a just personal opinion, a rapture moment like we might see in like the Left Behind series or something like that, where Christians go and maybe a small remnant stays, and then etc. So I don't really believe that. And even when you talk about the Antichrist, like obviously there's lots of like prophetic imagery and stuff in Revelation about that. But I don't know that I really lean towards that being like a specific literal unique individual, or more of like the Antichrist spirit and world system, and many Antichrist rising up throughout human history and throughout this kind of church age that we've been in. But I also just think there's a lot of mystery there again, and not wanting, like Elijah say, not wanting to say like, there's mystery, therefore we won't invest any thought or any study or prayer. But at the same time, when I think of like eschatology, like that study of the end times, I just think about, all the prophetic imagery around the Messiah, and how I'm sure everyone had their strong opinions about what the Messiah was going to be like, the son of David who was going to reign over the earth forever. And there's no way anyone had it like totally fleshed out and correct, that he's going to be this suffering servant, God wrapped in flesh, like all that. And so I just kind of assume that the return of Jesus, the new heavens, the new earth, like all these different things. It's going to be like bigger and more beautiful and more awe-inspiring than we could really imagine.
I love it. I love that you have a different take on it, because there's people watching out there that have all different takes on it. So
Yeah, I would say where I stand is a couple of things, right? So, real short at first, and then I'll just unpack. Just give me a couple of minutes.
we do have one more question.
All right. So, no, real short. I don't believe in the rapture. I did at one time. I actually went to the school where Tim LaHaye, who wrote the Left Behind books. Actually, I think I was in school with his grandchildren, which is part of that, which is Liberty University. I was in Ed Heinzen's. He used to come talking about this idea. The idea around tribulation, stuff like that, is relatively new in church history. You said that. I was going to point that out. I think a couple things here. Number one, the scripture cannot mean something different to us that it did not mean to them. Like, we always have to think about that, right? Because in Revelation 1:3, at the beginning of the book, this is what it's saying. It said, "Blessed is the one who reads those who reads, and those who hear the words of prophecy and keep these things which are written in it." The book is meant to give you peace. And I think a lot of the tribulation literature and all that other stuff, the interpretation, it doesn't necessarily give you peace. It gives you a lot of, like, at least for me, and again, this is my interpretation, so I don't want to put that on everybody else, but it gives you a lot of like shock and like, oh man, this is going to be buck wild, and I hope I make it. And I don't think that's necessarily what the book is trying to. And I've studied, and I've gotten it, like, this is the Revelation is probably my favorite book in the Bible. And so I've done like just a ton of study on it. The other thing I would say is that, like, the word we've because we live in the 21st century, we've misappropriated words. So like the word apocalypse, right? Joel, what would you say apocalypse means?
Yeah, so off the top, even to many people, I feel like it would mean the apocalypse is like the end times, the like when you think of those, the last, the end times, just when Jesus comes and just
for sure.
madhouse.
And I think I would say 90-something% of people believe that. Mm-hmm. The word apocalypse actually means reveal. Right? So it has nothing to do with like there's going to be asteroids coming from the ground or whatever. And that's what Revelation means. Revelation, the apocalypse of John, the revelation of John is just to reveal. So like right there, Bible Project did this like really beautiful thing, but like right there, I just apocalypsed you. I revealed information to you, right? That's literally that's the phrase. You know what I'm saying? That's seriously. That's literally what it means. That's the way that's the way we get that word reveal kind of broken down.
Is that a new word that I need to learn?
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, I think like what happens is the book, it's become charged with all these ideas, and then when you start breaking it down, you start realizing, oh, wait a second, maybe it doesn't quite mean that. Again, like, and that's just a tidbit, right? Like apocalypse, to reveal, right? The way I just did it, we just revealed this new information. Okay, now I know. So we're doing in the fall like a whole series on this. I'm gonna give you an interpretation. I'm not saying it's the only interpretation, but I'm going to give you a interpretation, and then we're gonna just let people, wrestle with that or whatever. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's
I stand my ground.
Yeah, no,
I'll
think
I'll see y'all there. Hopefully y'all make it.
Hopefully
I'll see y'all.
Just
see y'all in 7 years. Awesome. Thank you guys. And the last question. Oh no.
Yeah, I thought we were on
that was
the last
it.
question.
That was it. There was no
Trick
last
you
question.
guys.
Yeah, we said we believed in dinosaurs. You really wanted to get that dinosaur thing back here. I need that link. I need that link to that article for sure.
Well, so it's not. I need to find the article. I saw it in a podcast, and it was like two guys, and they were like, "Hey, have you heard about the T-Rex theory?" Ooh. And it was one of those where they're like, there are some researchers, and of course, they don't drop any links down below to where you can. So I need to then do my research, and I'll send you. But if
Was
I
it
find
on
the video,
Joe Rogan?
no. Although I hear Joe Rogan might be becoming more open to the gospel.
faith.
Come on, no.
And also Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey has had a very wild change
Very
of
wild
heart.
change.
Like
Recently, because I know he's
Recently.
for a while he's been like this
recently, like he's
weird spiritual.
And if I find the video, I'll send it to
Soup.
you guys. But he is
Yeah.
talking about grace. He's talking about forgiveness. He's talking that Jesus has done a work in his life,
Yeah.
and that a while ago he said I did find myself questioning a lot, and I was in a very unhealthy place, but I'm in a very peaceful place. And and he's like, I can't explain it other than the grace of Jesus Christ.
Wow,
Wow.
So I was like,
That's a big
what?
deal.
All right.
very interesting.
Yeah, that is a big
So,
deal.
or maybe he's just preparing to play a Jesus movie. I don't know. It just could be a whole thing. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't
So
forget
good.
to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in for those that tuned in with us the whole time. And bye bye.